There is no doubt that 2024, one of the biggest AI winners was Microsoft. This was a company that saw their stock price rise dramatically. They saw so much news cycle all around them. They were put into the forefront. They went from kind of, I don't know, like Microsoft might have had, I know they don't like this, and maybe this isn't super flattering, but look at Microsoft 3 or 4 years ago. It was kind of an older, slower
Yeah.
company, didn't feel super cutting edge. You could look at people making comparisons of Internet Explorer dying and Bing versus Google. All of a sudden, Microsoft catapulted to the front. They had the coolest technology. I myself downloaded the Bing app and was using it because it was getting, ChatGPT front 4 was getting front run on Bing before it was launched live. They were cooler than Google. So much has happened, in the last couple of years with Microsoft and AI. And this year, 2024, a lot of really interesting stuff came out. And just recently, Microsoft Recall it also came out. So we're going to be covering where Microsoft is today, where we think they're going in the future, and some interesting news. But Connor, break down what I guess some of the most exciting things for you were with Microsoft this year, maybe specifically where they're at right now.
Yeah. So I love your bringing up where Microsoft was and how people saw Microsoft. It reminds me a little bit about Facebook. Everybody's like, oh, delete Facebook because Instagram's a cool thing. It's like, dude, you know who owns Instagram, right? So it's just one of these things where it can be an old company, but Microsoft, kind of like Zuckerberg, saw this early on and they're like, we are going to take a chomp out of Google. Now, did they really take a chomp out of search? No, but like Jaden, I also downloaded Bing. And at the time, Bing was how you got access to ChatGPT 4. And I just remember when you only had like 8 queries and things like that. Anyway, we could do a long walk down memory lane with Microsoft, which would fascinate me. But I also want to talk about what's out there right now. And Microsoft Recall is been in the news of late. I got a little bit of a sneak peek when I did a Microsoft event, kind of a closed event a couple of months ago. Recall, if you remember, is this thing where Microsoft allows you to have this AI feature that tracks along with everything you're doing, essentially taking a screenshot of your computer every 5 seconds. Technically, I think that's what it is. And then at the end of the day or weeks later, you can say, hey, I remember that I was looking at something on a website where it said this, or hey, wasn't I working on this PowerPoint, or hey, wasn't I whatever. Now, this is getting a lot of stirred up feelings. And I just want to pause on this because I want us to pause. This is AI applied. I want us to pause for a second on whether you think this is a good idea or a bad idea. Because it would be the easiest thing in the world to stand up here and say, this is creepy. This is crazy. Who should do this? It doesn't even seem to be working very well. It says when it's not going to capture your credit cards. Every once in a while it does. Of course, it's glitchy in the beginning. And I'm not here defending it because I actually don't want Recall on my, I don't even have, I have a Mac, so I wouldn't have it used to it. I wouldn't have access to it anyway. But I just want us to be careful. When we are thinking about the future of AI, and if you're listening to this and I want you thinking about the future of AI, don't think so much about, is this good or bad? Is it creepy or weird? This isn't debate television. It's sort of like Character AI about AI girlfriends. That's horrible. That's great. It's all about this technology is coming. It's here. It's going to be ubiquitous. And the analogy that I was thinking about today, Jaden, was if you told everybody 30 years ago that everybody would have a 4K video camera in their pocket and it would be disguised as a phone and you would think they're on the phone, but they're actually videotaping you at any moment of the day and everybody on the planet would have one, we'd be like, no thanks. That's weird. And yet we all have that. So when we think about Recall, I think that this is just the future. It's just the future, folks. It's going to be something where we have to make sure it's safe because privacy is everything. I think Microsoft has done a really good job, but I still think it's glitchy. But something like Recall, I think, is going to really demand our attention in the coming year or so. And I just want to point out that as much as we think it's creepy right now, early tech is always creepy. I'm not defending it. I don't want it on my computer, but I'm just saying that's where we're going. So to me, Jaden, that's one of the big things that's defining Microsoft, that as well as Mustafa Suleyman, who came over from Inflection and making Microsoft sort of like more warm and fuzzy and Copilot more of a friend than anything else. Those to me are the two big things that we'll see from Microsoft in 2025. What they're doing with Recall and how Copilot will be more conversational rather than a new feature on Microsoft Office products.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I have this funny article I pulled up by futurism.com where it says Microsoft.
Yeah. Guys, watch us on YouTube. Jaden has the best screen sharing. You have to check this out.
Yeah, I'm pulling up stories about what Connor's talking about live, but sometimes they're kind of interesting to look at. So if you, follow us on YouTube or on Spotify. But this one says, Microsoft AI Recall feature caught screenshotting your social security number. Nope, don't like that. Okay, like Connor said, there's going to be some bugs to work out. One thing that I do like, that that you obviously don't want it to do. One thing that I did think was interesting, if you go over to their actual kind of like announcement site, it shows a little bit more of
Yeah.
the UI of how this thing actually works, which is that you can open your recall, you can have recall running, you can click pause until tomorrow. So you can turn it off, you can turn it on if it's not useful. If you don't want, you're going to go do something with your social security number and typing it in somewhere and you don't want this thing running, you can go pause it or turn it off. So I think that that's fairly useful. What I will say is, well, it does seem creepy perhaps, or people don't like it, it's very interesting because I actually think it's useful. And so if it's useful, inevitably a lot of people will use it. And I also don't think it's very far off from what a lot of companies are doing. So Google recently released their new Google Pixel phone. And this Pixel phone, it just seems like with these AI, like they always kind of want access to more of your data, which I don't know. I was talking to someone that's like very data privacy centric. And they were like super like, oh man, Google's always trying to get more of my data. But I'm like, oof, at the end of the day, I know it sounds terrible, but like I kind of want that Google Pixel phone because it accesses everything on my phone. And I'm just like, there's just a search bar where I'm like, where the heck did I put that a confirmation code for my flight? Like I booked this thing 6 months ago. I can't find the email. Like I don't even remember what airline I booked. I just knew I booked the cheapest one. Like where the heck's that confirmation code? Google pulls it up immediately because it can look through all your Gmails and grab it. And so like it seems creepy because it's searching through your, personal Gmail. But like that is so useful. And so I think that we're going to see kind of a similar thing with the recall. The other thing that I think is interesting about recall that I'll bring up is, I know people don't like, but like I'm sure if you said, 20 years ago, saving your search history, for example, in your browser would seem like kind of, oh, that's creepy. You're serving, like it's saving your search history. It can look through and know everything you've searched for and looked at and done. And like, I don't know, like advertisers can know everything you're looking for and stuff. Yet at the same time, almost everybody has search history enabled because it is the most useful thing. When I'm like, man, what website was I on yesterday where it was telling me X, Y, and Z thing? I go look at my history and it brings it up. It's super, super useful. To me, this recall thing is just like search history. And I know it's weird at the beginning, and I'm sure a lot of people are not going to like it. And like, I understand all of the reasons. I do think there's going to be a massive subset of people that use this and find it incredibly useful. So anyways, I did want to bring that up, and I do think that that's interesting. Now, one other interesting story that I wanted to bring up and get your thoughts on, Connor, is Microsoft just recently has been talking a little bit about what they've done this year. And that is the fact that they've bought nearly 500,000 NVIDIA Hopper chips this year, which is, more than almost anybody else. They bought about 485,000 during 2024, and I think some others. Just to compare that, you're seeing Meta having bought 224,000. So like Meta got less than half what they were able to essentially purchase. And my big question is, right now we're seeing companies like Amazon and AWS roll out essentially their own models. We know that Microsoft has kind of this finite timeline with OpenAI where at some point they're going to stop getting access to ChatGPT, unless maybe OpenAI changes that once they become a for-profit company. We'll see. But under the current agreement that they might get cut off from OpenAI theoretically. What is your opinion on where Microsoft goes next? Do you think they're going to do the Amazon and come out with essentially their own AI models to compete with ChatGPT? They have 500,000 NVIDIA chips. They definitely have the firepower to do it. Where do you think they're going in 2025?
So I love saying you have a great article up there. I think that Microsoft is going the Amazon route, which means that they are going to come out and just try to saturate everything. So, and the reason I think that that's going to actually work for them, because we see there that they're building their own chips. They're clearly building their own foundation model. I don't even remember if we have news on that or not, but there's no way they are not. I think that we sort of had heard rumors of it, but I don't think anything's been released on that. But when we think about like Amazon is a pretty good example. Like, why is Amazon doing that? Well, Amazon makes a ton of money off AWS, off their cloud. Right? I mean, same thing. Microsoft makes a ton of money off their cloud. Google makes a ton of money off their cloud. We have to remember that this is just how the world does business. The world does business digitally. The world does business with clouds and things like that. And when you are Microsoft, you already have so many eyeballs on the Microsoft suite. So Copilot may be raising expectations for some people and maybe getting a little bit of a bad rap here and there. Some people love it. Some people are like, oh, it's really disappointing. But would it really be more disappointing if it doesn't advance in technology so much? Meaning, like, if I'm Microsoft, I'd much rather own my supply chain with chips, with my own large language model, with everything else, and then just sort of more slowly roll out the capacity for Word, for Excel, for PowerPoint. That's where the money is in terms of selling to consumers and selling to customers. Microsoft also, of course, makes a ton of money off their cloud. My point here is that I think that they are going to, of course, keep their relationship with OpenAI. I mean, guys, they are making so much money off OpenAI. It's crazy. They made the best investment of all time, $10 billion for like 49% of the company or whatever it was a year or two ago, whatever. But right now, imagine if, all these companies are trying to own their supply chain. Imagine if Microsoft does. This is not about being at the cutting edge of technology. This is all about, do they own, are they paying, licenses and everything else to OpenAI, or can they provide their own thing? Because most people, guys, I hate to tell you, most people are not really going to care about the difference between who's out in front. Is it Claude or is it Gemini or is it whatever? Most people don't care about that. Most people just care, is this going to help me write my emails better, make PowerPoints better, and make Excel better? And there's no way that if Microsoft makes its own chips, has its own large language model, all that kind of stuff, they own the eyeballs right now. And so that's where I think that they are going. I think it's a very wise move. I think they'll probably keep up that relationship with OpenAI just because it's profitable. And also, the truth is they've sort of like both companies have said, yeah, it's a little fraught right now, but they've really helped each other out. So that's where I think Microsoft is going. And then on the side, they can mess around with recall. They can mess it up a little bit. They have to be careful. Roll it out slowly. You want to learn from the Googles of the world and places like that. Like what happens when you roll out things too fast. I really hope they roll it out slowly because I think, to your point, I think something like recall could actually be really, really useful. I just don't want to be I don't want to be the guinea pig on that one.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, like you mentioned, I think any of these companies, Microsoft especially, Microsoft, Google, Apple, any of these companies that might not already have the technology baked in, I think it's a great strategy. Google might be one of the only ones that didn't really do this. Like, partner with one of these cutting edge AI companies. We saw Amazon go with Anthropic. We saw Apple now going with ChatGPT. We see Microsoft going with OpenAI as well. Like the big companies, if they didn't have the cutting edge technology, they partnered with a player, and then at the same time they're training their own model. So the Motley Fool is saying that Microsoft's $13 billion investment in OpenAI might have been some of the best money ever spent. I think that that's probably true. That catapulted them to the front. And if you look at how much their stock price went up over the last couple of years because of that, multiples more than $13 billion. So I think their market cap right now is sitting at $3.3 trillion. So the $13 billion is a blink. It's nothing compared to I think what happened to their stock. So that seems like a fantastic investment. Going forward, I do see Microsoft following the same play as Amazon and really launching their own AI models. I'm excited for that. It's going to be more competition. It's interesting because they need to be cutting edge, so they have to partner up until they have something just as good or better. But I think we're going to start seeing Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, all of the top players come out with their own models that are really, really impressive. And we're going to see more competition. We're going to see more niche kind of plays in the market. We're already seeing Microsoft, kind of with their with some of the things that they're coming out with that are seem a little bit more niche, like even like recall. And so I'm excited to see where Microsoft's able to go in the next year. But I think we're going to see more competition in the market. That's going to drive prices down. Well, maybe up, depending on what we're seeing with $200 tiers of ChatGPT. But in any case, it's going to be a fascinating year. So buckle up, and we will keep you updated on everything going into 2025.
Yeah, this is going to be a great year. And again, don't count Microsoft out. They used to be boring. They're not boring anymore. Guys, thank you for tuning in once again to AI Applied Podcast. We love doing this. It's great. I get to hang out with Jaden and talk about this stuff, but love and so grateful that you guys are paying attention as well. So listen, we'd love a rating and review, but you already know that. So for today, we just want to say have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And one last thing, if you're still listening now, there's actually one thing that you could do that would absolutely make Connor smile for his Christmas present this year. And that is if you could go and check out his AI Mindset course. Now, this course is absolutely incredible, and really it's the greatest gift you can give yourself for Christmas. But I think in some weird way, every time someone buys one of those, it makes Connor happy because he feels like the world has just learned a little bit more about AI, and we have retrained our mindsets a little bit more in regards to this. So check it out. The link's in the description. It's a phenomenal course that will change what you're doing. And something that Connor doesn't talk a lot about, but he was telling me before the podcast, so I'll just bring it up, is that Connor also is currently selling licenses to corporations. Tons of large corporations are buying access. So if you work at a company and you want your company to get access to the AI Mindset course, maybe you've already taken it and you're like, look, I learned a ton, but I want all my coworkers to level up with me because these guys seem far behind. Make sure to ask your company if you guys can get access for the whole company to this mindset course and level up the whole company, make your life easier. And this would be a great time. So reach out to Connor over on his website about that as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.